Okay, so do you follow Nanty narking?
No.
No.
No, but I did think it was Nancy narking.
Okay, that's fair.
Maybe I do. I don't know. I don't see her content or their content.
So I don't know. People have told me who this is at this point. And I don't know what she does in the industry or what she did in the industry.
Is she anonymous?
She's anonymous, yeah.
Okay.
But I've had people send me her identity. So I don't think she's like trying super hard to be anonymous, because I think she's pretty... A lot of people in the like luxury space know who she is. And she's been a speaker at like, I think an Engaged Summit. So she's someone, I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. Anyways, she started this account where she essentially posts like transparent numbers for weddings. And especially like really high-end weddings, which I think is amazing because her numbers are almost always spot on, and they're just super interesting. They're very enlightening. Anyways, she posted yesterday. Oh, she always asks for hot takes, and then she posts people's responses anonymously. And she doesn't really give like her opinions. She just posts everyone else's opinions. Mm-hmm. And much like your Reddit thread, I don't want anything to do with these. Everyone, I don't care how likable of a person you are. I know my integrity and I know who I am, but it's not like there's not people out there who don't like me, I'm sure there are. There's people out there who don't like everyone.
Oh yeah.
So, I just don't, if I'm part of a conversation that isn't positive, I don't want to know about it. Like if it's constructive, send it my way. If it's just people being mean, I just don't, I don't want to see it.
Was something said about you?
No, but luckily, she started this hot take yesterday. Someone essentially was bitching about some planners. And I know it's not me because they said specifically, there's some planners who are coming out with new education and it's wildly expensive with the promises of getting to the next level and getting into the luxury market and this and that. And it's bullshit. I know it's not me because my education is dirt cheap and I've been doing it.
I wouldn't say that because according to my Reddit thread, my $50 a month membership is expensive.
Okay, well, I guess it's all relative.
Yeah, so it might be you.
I'm still going to stand by it. It's dirt cheap. And I've been doing it for now, 4 years or something. So I know this wasn't about me. I have a theory on who it was about. Anyways, though, I won't say. So she started posting everyone's opinions on it and got super intense. And I had a couple people be like, did you go read Nanty Narking's posts? And I was like, no, I don't want to see any of it. I'm terrified someone's going to be like, I hate May & Co. So I was like, I'm staying away from it. I want no part in it. I did end up going and reading it because I had a couple people write me some really nice things that were like, none of these apply to you. Da, da, da. So it gave me a little bit more strength to go read. But they were intense. The things people were saying were so gnarly. And
what were they saying? I want to hear some of them.
I know a lot of them are gone now, but I mean, and in all fairness, like she opened it up to all wedding industry education. And I do very much agree. There is some garbage education out there. Mm-hmm. In fact, and this is, I don't know who in what space is telling people the next step in making a profit is to educate, because...
Educate your client?
No, to just educate like your peers.
Yeah.
Like once, to really make profit, the next step is to become a teacher or to release a guide or release digital, we all know how I feel about digital guides, but something out there is telling people that's the next way to make money is passive income, create digital guides, create a course, create this, create that. And I'm like, who's telling you to do that? There's an art to education. It's a skill. It's a skill set. Mm-hmm. You can't just be in the wedding industry for 2 years and then be like, I'm going to start a course.
Well, guess who's telling, I'm not going to say who, don't worry, but we know who.
Oh, right.
Guess who's telling people to do that? Someone who's selling a course on it.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, there you go. It's a really easy sell to be like, you can make a lot of money. It's so easy. It's passive.
Yep.
Totally. You're so tired of by weddings or whatever. Like, just do a digital course. Just do a course. Start teaching. And yeah, we have a whole podcast on this.
Yeah.
You all haven't heard it, go back and listen.
Yeah.
But basically our take is that it is a whole job within it. It's not passive.
It's not passive.
Like, I love my job doing this. So I don't mind working 10 hours a day sometimes, like building out funnels and new courses and answering emails. Obviously you can hire out for some of this stuff, but it's not passive at all. If you want to make money, you can, sure as shit, you can just put it on a shop passively, but will you make money passively?
Exactly.
I don't know, $200 a month if you don't do anything, maybe.
1,000%. Yes.
Well, you know what? I launched my list print shop and I was like, I'm not doing anything with it. I just launched it. Guess how much money I've made working passively? None. Because I haven't worked. I haven't been doing any marketing. I haven't been running ads. I stopped my ads. I was just like, I'm working on something right now for Flowering Minds. I'm putting that on hold. My point being, like, if you are doing events and stuff, like, you need to choose. If you really want to go big on something, you have to pick a lane.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think education, you're really putting yourself in a position where if you're not good at it, and if you don't fully understand what you're teaching and how you're teaching it and how to teach, period, you're kind of really setting yourself up for failure too, because you're not going to make a name for yourself doing that, not a good one. And you're not going to make money doing it. And so what people were saying was it wasn't really mixed. It was 90% of people were like, education in the wedding industry is garbage. There's like 4 good ones. And then this is what's still up actually. So someone said, someone basically brought up a mastermind for wedding industry professionals. I don't know if it was a photographer or planner or what it was, but they said it was like $20,000 for this mastermind. And the Nancy Narking, she posted the screenshot where she actually wrote back and was like, who the hell charges $20,000 for a mastermind? And
that's someone got normal.
I know, right?
That's not, just because you haven't paid it before, it's extremely normal, $20,000, because you're in a group of the thing is, they're supposed to be highly advanced people. It's not supposed to be it's not a group coaching session.
Yes. And I agree with that. I also think, I think first off, anyone can charge anything they want. I think it's also the consumer's responsibility to do the research and figure out if there's testimonials, how long that person's been in business. Like, don't just sign up for something because there's good marketing. Like, you also have to do your research, because anyone's allowed to charge whatever they want. They're not responsible for, their marketing grabbing people well. So, she posted that, and then this person wrote back and said, many people charge $20,000 for masterminds. I do one-on-one mentorships and charge a similar rate, which I don't know if she means $20,000, and that's impressive if so, but it's all access. I've worked really hard to be where I am and know what I know. If they want keys to the castle, it costs money, or they can just put in the hard work. But shaming people for how much they charge for masterminds and then expecting our clients to understand that we cost a certain rate because what we do, I don't know, is a bit hypocritical and double standard, don't you think? Anyways, she wrote back and she said, nope, I'm not judging. I was just shocked. Turns out a lot of people charge up to $50,000. Then someone else wrote on it another take and said, I don't see the logic here. Charging a client who has amassed wealth and a professional rate is not the same as charging an early career professional an exorbitant amount to impart on your knowledge. It just doesn't track. One seems inappropriate. One seems appropriate, and the other seems like riding into a peasant's village on the back of a white horse and charging the residents an inflated fee to tell them how you got the horse.
That's so stupid.
I thought so too.
That is so stupid. That person is getting nowhere in this life. I can tell you that much. Like, what a perspective to keep you down.
That's what I thought too. I was like, I don't even think I would have reposted that, because I think it's the most ridiculous thing you could possibly say.
Okay, first of all, masterminds are for people who are highly successful. They're not for new people. So that person just doesn't understand what a mastermind is, which is fine, but like don't form opinions about things you don't understand. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't have opinions about pretty much anything. I don't understand. I do understand masterminds though. So it's not the same as riding into a town of peasants, like telling them this loaf of bread is $20,000. It's like, this isn't a loaf of bread. You can take it or leave it. You don't need to have it. Like, it's a nice to have if you want to up-level your business with other successful entrepreneurs. So it's not a coaching program. And also, you don't have to have it.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you don't need a mastermind or a group coaching program to use YouTube and Google.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll just take you longer.
Yeah.
So if you have the money and you want to grow faster, that's a great option. If you don't have the money, go use all the free resources that are out there that we've never had before. Like, to be whining about that is just insane to me.
I agree. I also think education, it's also a business. I don't know. Why are we thinking that it's okay to suddenly dictate how much people are allowed to charge for their knowledge? I mean,
Well, what if that man spent his first 50 years in life learning how to breed horses, and that's why he has a horse? Someone didn't just hand it to him. So it's like, you know, I'm not saying this man shouldn't tell you where he got his horse, but he might have worked really hard to have that horse, and it might have taken him a really, really, really long time and a lot of fucking money. Do you know how much money professionals who have good education have spent to get where they are?
Exactly.
Like, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Facebook ads so I can speak to Facebook ads. Am I going to tell you how to make a bunch of money on Facebook ads for $20? No, because I know the potential of how much money you can make. And that's how much you charge, proportionate to what the client's takeaway is going to be. Yes. So like, if you join a mastermind and you learn how to make $1 million,
yeah,
20,000 is not bad.
A drop in a hat. Yeah,
that's the point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, things are priced the way they are based on what you will get, what you're going to take away from it.
Right. And again, part of that is the consumer's responsibility to actually do the research on who they're trying to learn from and not just get sucked in with like pretty graphics.
Right.
And to act, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that's on everyone who's buying it too. Just like I could buy a pair of shoes because there's a really beautiful Facebook ad, or I could also go read the reviews for those shoes, and then type into Google who's the best shoe seller, and then try and, you know what I mean? Like, I do the research and then decide like, oh, they might be overpriced. They just have really good marketing.
Being mad like that person is being mad is like being mad that Gucci sells their purses for $10,000.
Someone said that. Someone was like,
you can charge whatever you want. Go get a Target purse.
Exactly. Someone was like, wait, why are we not okay with a professional who's been in the industry for, 10 plus years charging $20,000 for a course, but we're okay with Birkin charging $25,000 for a bag? Yes. And you know what?
Made in China.
Someone replied to it and said, at least I can use a bag on the day-to-day basis. And I was like, what do you do with education? What?
Yeah. Investing in yourself is dumb. Definitely go buy a sack of skin sewed together with thread by a child.
Oh, man.
It's a much better use of $10,000. Don't put it into your brain so it can pay off over and over and over and over again for the rest of your life. That's stupid.
What a dumb idea.
You know what triggers us, so.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I was like, I can't even read these. They're like making me so anxious and so angry. And It's
just people who don't understand. Like, that's fine. But I spent $25,000 on a mastermind last year, and there were some disappointments about it for sure. And that was my fault because I was the first cohort. So there were no reviews, and it was their first time running it. And so, I learned a lot from that, but also it's really hard not to get something from a mastermind, even if the person running it maybe like isn't doing a lot.
Yeah.
There's people in the mastermind that you're like, I connected with 3 women that I'm so close. I've learned so much from. Yeah. They're all so successful. I mean, even if it's bad education, I don't know. I just learned from everything. So when I hear people who just refuse to see value in things like that, I'm just like, good luck. Yeah. Like, that perspective is going to keep you very, very small.
I think education and coaching and one-on-ones and masterminds, all of those, what they all have in common is you're going to get out of it what you put into it. You can't just show up to anything. You can't just watch a course and just like watch it or let it play and then just expect things to be different. That is education. You have to look for things to take away from it. You have to work to connect with people. You have to ask questions. You have to take notes. You have to implement things into your business. Like no education or coaching or mastermind is set up for you to just sit there and like stare at the wall and then have your business change. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just not what it is.
No, it takes so much work. Yeah. And I definitely think there's a disconnect because a lot of people, most courses have information in it. When you hear it, you're like, duh. And so I think a lot of people do. And I'm not saying all education is good education. Like we've already said in today, like we agree. There's a lot of, that's a whole nother story. But just assuming it's good education, it's probably not going to be like magical stuff that you couldn't have thought of. It's stuff that you're hearing from an expert and they're saying like, trust me, this is like, it's usually basics. You need to do the basics really, really well. And it like goes in one ear and out the other for most people because they're like, I already know that.
Right.
If I'm like, your portfolio needs to look amazing. They're like, I know. And then I go look at the portfolio and I'm like, but this is terrible.
Do you know?
So like, I'm glad you know, but like, why aren't you doing anything about that?
Right. Totally. Put it
like
into
actively make this the best portfolio you've ever seen and you won't fail.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you doing that?
Right.
And so, I don't know, a lot of people listen to a course, be like, yeah, I already know portfolio, obviously. But then it's like, do something.
And do it. Yeah.
That's all the course can do is tell you.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy Narking. All right. Let's get
into the meat of it. Today, we're going to talk about our lowest moments. We're going to get vulnerable.
Dun.
And we're not just going to leave you with our lowest moments and then end. We're going to tell you what we learned from it so that hopefully you can probably find some moments that you relate with. Maybe you're even experiencing some of them right now and you can know there is a rainbow. There's gold. There's a rainbow.
There's a rainbow. No.
At the end of the tunnel.
This too shall pass. There is a light at the end of the tunnel and there is gold on the other side of the rainbow. And the world is your oyster.
Yes.
I think I got all of them.
Yeah.
All right.
So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, no, okay. Sure. Okay, so I would say the lowest point in I can see it. Such a standout moment in my business and career was probably like 3 years ago, actually, which would have been my 6th year in business. And I wouldn't say it wasn't like one thing that happened. It was an accumulation of things, and it was the 6 years that led up to it. And although it may sound a little vague, it was really impactful for me because essentially it was the first time that I had burnout, which is just not something, I mean, especially my personality type is not something that I necessarily struggle with because I just function at a very high level of stress. But I do, like I actually function there best.
Called trauma response.
There's a reason.
I require stress to perform.
There's a reason I started getting gray hair at 30. So, either way, so 3 years ago, the point I was at in my business was, I've said this before, but like I don't follow a lot of other planners, or I haven't. I don't even spend a lot of time on social media. I haven't. So it took me a little while to realize what else was out there. And a lot of planners go through this, but the first 5 years of my business, I was really just trying to climb a ladder, and I was trying to book more jobs, better jobs, more of my ideal clients, normal things, and was trying to grow every year. And, went from 10 weddings to 60 weddings, down to 40 weddings to 30 weddings, whatever. And I was trying to figure out like the perfect mix. And I was trying to figure out how to grow a team, but I couldn't grow a team because I wasn't making enough money to grow a good team. And then I wasn't making enough money to pay myself. So I was trying to figure out how to, and these are totally normal things to go through in the first 5 years of your business. But as I am an overachiever, I got to that year 6 and realized like, where am I going? Like I can't keep running at this level. This isn't healthy. This isn't good. And I think that was also the year after COVID, or maybe 2 years or something. It was like the first full season after COVID. And unlike a lot of other people, the year of COVID was like a magical year for me because it forced me to not be able to be on the go 24/7. I was able to put routine back into my life. I was able to get structure. I was able to sleep. I was like all these things that I think people with normal 9-to-5 jobs get and they take for granted. I was finally getting to work a normal schedule, and I like cherished that year. I got to the end of it and I was like, I will never let things go back to how they were before this. And then they did. Then they started going back to it like rapidly. And I could feel all this anxiety like welling up in me because I was like, no, you said you wouldn't let it happen. And I started thinking about my 5-year plan or my 10-year plan or my plan and realizing, okay, I don't know, what am I going to do? How am I going to even keep this going? And then we had some pretty intense personal things happen that kind of prohibited us to be able to work at our full capacity. Mm-hmm. So then I was like stunted, not just because I was overwhelmed, but I was also stunted like without having any way to solve that problem. Like I was out of my control. And then I had one of my like really solid crew members that I had spent the last 2 years training. She got pregnant, so she had to bail on all of our weddings that year. So I remember very vividly laying in bed and staring at the ceiling being like, okay, so now I need to run all of the weddings for this year. I've like now moved back into that role. Plus I have to design all my weddings for this year. Plus I have to run and manage everything. Plus I won't have Johnny, who's my right-hand person on everything. I won't have him for the next like 4 weddings that I had to travel for, which was a really big deal for me because he's my partner in everything I do.
He does
right?
so much.
He does so much, and he takes care of me too. Like aside from the business, like he's my calming, like strong rock. And so it was like all of that together, and with what was happening in our personal life, without getting like too detailed, it also shifted, I think, my priorities where I was like, I'm working. At the time, I was like 31 or something. And I was like, where am I going? Like, what if I just do this for the next 10 years and then I'm 40 and then what? And like with what we were going through in our personal lives, I was like, is this even worth it? And I am not a quitter at all. And that was the first time in my business up to that point where I was like, I don't even know if I want to book jobs next year. I don't know if I can do this. And I remember like walking into the bedroom and like sitting down on the bed with Johnny, and he was like, what's going on? And I think I just started like sobbing, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I don't think I can. Like, I think I just need to change something's not right. And I did. I stopped taking inquiries. Like I just stopped responding to anyone. I was like, I don't even have the capacity to do an inquiry call. I can't. That honestly wrecked me for like 3 months. And then I got COVID and then it like kicked my ass. And then somehow I came out on the other side of it, a different person. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to change everything. Yeah. And I did. I started doing so much research and really deeply figured out what the luxury market was. And I mean, any of my main monthly members who have been a member for longer than 6 months know this story, but it's essentially changed everything for me because I finally realized like this is where I have to be. I don't just want to be here. I have to be if I want a sustainable career, if I want to live the life I want to live, if I want to be able to be involved in all my weddings, but also design all my weddings, if I want to be able to pay my team the way I want to pay my team, if I want to be able to pay me the way I want to pay me. It was like everything clicked. And it was the biggest light bulb moment ever for me. And I had an inquiry call with this lady and her assistant, who I didn't end up booking, thank God. But it was right at the end of that, and it was like it would have been like a $4 million wedding. And this is when this is like when I swapped over to percentage in my pricing. This is when I changed my contract, and I had to figure out like, okay, well, who would I bring on? How much would I pay them? I mean, I spent like 3 days with barely saying a word, because essentially in 3 days I restructured my entire business to be able to be in the luxury space. And it changed everything for me. It was absolutely like the best thing that ever happened to me. But it's so cliche that I'm like, I had to hit rock bottom.
It is, yeah.
Before I could see what needed to be done. And I really easily could have just been like, you know what? I think I'm going to go do something else. There's lots of other things I want to do. I mean, at the time I was like, I could go work at Red Robin and probably make the same amount of money I'm making right now. So, like, is this worth it? But I decided not to. I mean, I pushed through it was like 3 months of pretty severe depression, and I like pushed through it and figured out what the solution was to my problem, my solution, because I don't think it's a one size fits all, but it was my solution to the problem. And it literally like changed my whole life and changed my business, changed the way I taught, changed my education. What happened?
Nothing. A phone call was just coming through my computer.
I didn't hear it. It didn't go off.
Okay, good. Okay, it's good to know.
Anyways, that was my lowest moment, but also simultaneously my highest moment. Best decision, best year for my business, shifted everything for me and was like pretty great. I don't know if there's, I want to say like in those dark moments, I like learned, I mean, from that, I definitely learned what I needed, and I definitely problem solved, and I definitely realized this is not where I want to be. And so from that, I took it and then came up with a solution. It's not like something happened in my darkest moment that was, there wasn't a learning moment in there. It was just dark.
Yeah. Well, sometimes stop giving me a thumbs up.
Damn it.
Sometimes you have to, like, burning it all down really does, obviously, create new growth. And that's pretty much what it sounds like happened. And I think I actually remember, do you remember coming to my shop and you were like, you texted me and you're like, sorry, I had to pull over and cry.
And you guys, I don't cry. I'm not an emotional person.
That's why I remember it so much. And I think it was during that period that you're telling me.
It was
like, what? You cry?
It was pretty dark. I remember like it felt so debilitating, honestly. Like, and we've talked about this in podcasts. I'm a very much like, I strip everything away and just take the emotions out of it, figure out logically what needs to happen. And I almost think that's probably what made it so dark for me, is I was logically thinking through it, and I was like, there is no solution. I am just going to keep doing this until I'm dead, and it's going to ruin my quality of life. Like, and it's not worth it. And that's, I think, what probably hit me so hard. It was my logic coming out, and then it just turned me into an emotional mess for 3 months. So I've only cried twice since then. I've only cried 2 since then.
2. I think that's what burnout is. And I feel like people throw the term burnout around a lot without really talking about what it actually feels like. And my lowest moment wasn't burnout. For me, that was like maybe a year and a half ago. And I think burnout, at least my opinion on this, is like your personality kind of disappears.
Yes.
And you just feel like a completely different person. And you feel like that old person who saw the vision is like gone forever. Correct. And you're like, what am I doing? Like, it doesn't feel like it's a cycle. And I feel like if you do rest, which it sounds like, and COVID made you rest, even though you're probably miserable, it's like suddenly you can be your old self again. It's wild.
Right.
Even though when you're in it, you're just like, this is done forever. Like, I'm never going to be that person ever again. It's basically like depression.
It is.
You're just like, I'm not who I used to be.
Exactly.
It's basically me anytime I've had to take steroids for allergy stuff.
You're just a shell of yourself.
When I stop, and I don't encourage anyone to take medication for anything. But sometimes I have some health issues with allergic reactions where steroids is the only thing that makes it go away like fast. And if I'm miserable, I'll take it. And the come down from steroids makes me feel it's depression, but it just like, I'm like, I'm a shell of my own old self.
Right.
And the first time that happened, I was like, I think I'm gone. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to go become a barista. I even said that when I was going through that. So I was like, I have no zest. I don't care about anything.
Yes. I mean, you're literally describing it. During those 3 months, I was literally like, I've lost what makes me me. I don't know, like, I have no value. I have nothing to give anymore. Like, I've lost what makes me valuable. Like, it was really intense. I won't get too deep into like some of the thoughts I was having at the time, more just about like realizing what life is and where it was going. Right. But it is, I think, to your point, people oftentimes think burnout is just getting stressed. Like just getting stressed.
I'm kind of tired. Yeah, I'm just burnt out. Yeah. Like if you can say I'm just burnt out.
Yeah, you're not. You need a day. And you'll be fine.
You wouldn't be talking to anyone. Yeah.
Yes. I think there's like and I think that's what I was in it. And I was like, I think this is burnout. And it was like so pivotal for me. So yeah, super dark moment, but also again, like most pivotal in my life and my career. I mean, even though that was the year I got gray hair too. It all happened, it all clicked. And I was like, this is going too far. Yeah. So that's mine. How about yours?
So mine was, I started Color Theory, my floral business in Austin after I had lived in Austin for a few years. And I was working for a wedding company as their lead designer. And I didn't realize like how many connections I'd made. And when I started my business, it just like took off. Granted, I wasn't doing nothing. I was literally like the person I am today, taking tons of actions, doing stuff every single day. And so in my mind, all the clients I was booking my first year, I booked like 30 clients my first year, exceeded 100,000 in profit. And I was just like, this is awesome. And it was. But then I was like, my boyfriend, my husband now, Brian, and I were like, let's move to the Pacific Northwest because I don't understand Texas because I had moved from Chicago and I was like, I am confused. There's no beautiful architecture. Everyone's conservative. I was very liberal back then. Now I'm no one gets to know what I am now. It's a secret. I don't know what I am, to be honest, everyone, but I'm not one or the other. But when I came from Chicago, I was like so liberal, so just like crude and just Chicago. Like I lived there for so long. And then I moved to Texas and I was like, what is this place? What are these cowboys? Like I didn't think it was cute at all.
Why did you move to Texas?
Because I was so tired of the cold in Chicago. I'd been there for almost 10 years. And this is right after the 2 polar vortices that went through. It was -40. And then someone stole my winter coat. And I was like, I'm not going to buy another one. I'm just going to move to Texas. And that's what happened. So I've never bought a winter coat since then. But, so we left Austin and I was like, this is fine. I'm just going to continue my business in Portland and, in that area. And I got there and my mom had moved there because, that's what she does. She moves everywhere I move. I'm her only child. And she's dedicated. So she had bought a house there already and Brian was looking for work. He was in IT and did coding and stuff. And we were like, okay, we'll just live with my mom for like 2 months while I get Color Theory up and running and Brian gets a job. We're living in her guest room. It's a tiny house. It's a nice new house, but it's like a tiny, tiny, tiny house. There's 2 bedrooms and 1 living room and like nothing else. And so we were there for 2 months. absolutely no progress on getting a job for Brian. Like he was applying like it was a full-time job, and yeah, just zero response. Like I'm sure people who have gone through looking for jobs have experienced this. It's like if you don't have a connection these days when you apply online, like you're just not going to hear back. Like there's so many applications. It's just like impossible to get a job without a relationship these days.
Right.
Unless it's a really low level job. And so that was happening. And Color Theory was literally getting zero inquiries, like zero. And it was like, okay, we've been here for 2 months. Then we're the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th month, zero. I was like, what is happening? And I was like going ape shit on my SEO. I got to the first page. I was like, I got to do something. Like, I don't know. I was doing photo shoots. I was like taking people out to lunch. Like I was like doing everything within my power. And lots of people were like, I love your work. And I knew like it felt like eventually, but it was like no one needed me at that moment.
Right.
Like they didn't have any need for me in that moment. And so it was going on like 12 months of living with my mom. We had like $0 in the bank account. Brian had got one interview, and then they were like, we went with the guy straight out of college because he's going to be cheaper. And I don't know. It's like a story is a story to someone who's listening, but when you're living in your mom's guest room and we have
on top of your mom,
on top of her boyfriend was living there. Super bizarre guy. They're not together anymore. So I don't mind saying really weird guy who was always in the living room playing the ukulele and like didn't have a job. And she was like covering his costs. And it was just like,
oh dear.
It was definitely the lowest moment of our lives. Like I was like, I think I just need to get a job at a coffee shop if they'll even hire me, because I've never made a latte in my life. Like, I don't know. I'm just going to need to do something else. I was like, I'm not a florist. Like, I have no work. I cannot get hired. And I think it was nothing but a product of simply, I didn't realize how much my relationships had gotten me as far as they did in Austin. Right. And so that was my number one lesson from that. And I will say the inquiry started trickling in. It started taking off. I started getting the biggest weddings I've ever had. We got a few inquiries. I booked a few weddings, and I was like, Brian, like, you need to join Color Theory, because if both of us are taking actions to grow, like, well, like, how can we fail? I just kept being like, we have to be able to do this. There's no reason that this won't take off eventually. I just don't know how long I can wait emotionally and mentally. And so from there, I got pregnant on purpose, which was so stupid, to be honest. I'm so glad. I know. It doesn't make any sense. I was in like a crisis mode. I know. Well, I lived with my mom. I was in a secure place. It's not like I was going to go on the streets. Yeah. And I just felt like I was like 32 or 33. 32, probably. Actually, I think it was 31. I think I had Django when I was 32. So I think I was 31. And did you say you were 31 during your crisis?
Yeah, I did. Wow. That's the time. Everyone be careful if you haven't hit it yet.
But I was having this crisis where I'm like, I know I want to have a baby, and I feel like this business is never going to take off. So to say like, we have to wait until things are a certain way was giving me even more anxiety. And I was like, let's just have a baby. And we weren't even married or anything, but I was like, I don't care. Like, anyone can sign paperwork.
Yeah.
But not anyone can get pregnant. Like, I was worried I wouldn't be able to for whatever reason. Right. Well, we got pregnant the first try.
Oh my God.
And I was like, damn it.
Nice timing.
Not ready for this?
No ovulation.
Yeah. I was tracking big time. It wasn't just like, ooh, that was easy. But I was like, it's time. Like, this is the exact time. And so I was pregnant. I had gotten a few of my first events. So I was seeing a little bit of light. And I was like, okay, here's a tiny bit of momentum. And I was like, we need to take a big risk to get exposure and to just be known in this city. So we just rented a retail shop, and they just didn't check any of our financials. I don't know why. He trusted me. I mean, I paid my rent, but and from there, it just like exploded. But it was like everything, all the work we had been doing, getting zero feedback was like silently compounding. We just weren't seeing any results like for ourselves, but like stuff was happening. Like people were getting to know us. They just didn't need us yet. Like people were forming opinions about us. They just didn't need us yet. Like stuff was happening. I just couldn't see it. So my main takeaway was like, no matter how dark of a time you're going through, it's never permanent, no matter how permanent it feels. And like, you just have to keep taking the actions, and that like the only people who are going to be successful entrepreneurs are going to be the people who are willing to take consistent action every single day and get literally zero reward for it, and just be okay with it, and just be like, I know it's compounding somewhere that I'll eventually get that payback and that positive feedback to help me continue this loop. But yeah, I just pushed through beyond what I felt I was really capable of. Like I was crying a lot. I was just like, I looked for other jobs, kind of just scrolling, just like, should I apply to some things? Like I was kind of one foot out the door, but I kept taking the actions. And the other thing I learned was just how important relationships and connections are to your business, especially obviously when you have a local business, which most, even if you're a destination wedding like person, you still have a local business. Like you're working with people locally on a pretty often basis. And so those relationships, again, just like compound results over time, but they're real relationships. So it takes time.
Yeah. Even destination based, you still have to, like I'm destination based and just moved, and I don't have any connections in my area, but having connection, to your point, even being destination based, I have connections that I've made all over the world. And honestly, those connections are what fabricate results more than anything. Exactly. Yes. And we've talked about this before too, that consistency and relentlessness. And that is, I would also say specifically, so much of the wedding market, but any market, any creative industry, being consistent doesn't mean that tomorrow it happens. It means for a whole year, I'm going to blog the shit out of everything I do. I'm going to meet everyone I can. I'm going to go to lunch with all these people. I'm going to put all this work in. I'm going to see zero results until next year or the year after or whatever it is. Like that's like such, in my opinion, like an inspirational story that shows that it's not just a bunch of bullshit. That's really how it works. But you remained super consistent and didn't stop trying and got out of it. Like massively got out of it.
Right. And you can feel like shit. Like it's not like when you're being consistent, you have to be like, this is awesome. This is really all going to pay off. I can't wait. Like you're probably going to be crying, but like just do the action anyway, you know?
Exactly.
Like you just had I just can't stand how much people rely on their emotions to take action. It's like you are going to fail. Your emotions don't need to be that valuable to you. I know that's a controversial opinion, but it's like...
I agree.
I do think that obviously if you're burnt out and unhappy, something needs to be evaluated, but things don't need to be easy and fun all the time for you to do them. The more you cater to yourself and how you feel right now means that you will literally get nowhere. You're just always trying to make yourself feel good right now. And therefore, like you have no big payoff in the future because that's just not making yourself feel good right now doesn't get you anywhere generally.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think it's forward thinking, right? Always constantly thinking, okay, if I do this right now, where will that potentially get me in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 10 years? Like everything should be forward thinking, because if you are just focusing on, okay, well, this is going to make me really happy right now, or this is going to feel good right now. Also, we're humans. We have ever-changing emotions. I might feel really amped today and really not amped tomorrow, and pissed off the next day, and spicy the next day, and then really motivated again the next day. You cannot base your work activity on what feels right and when it feels right. To your point, if you're dealing with burnout, that's a whole other, that's like psychological and mental and emotional and
workload too. It's also logistical. It's like you're working in a way that isn't sustainable, but writing a blog post every day and being upset that you don't have feedback on it, no one likes it, that's not like, get over it. But if you're like working your ass off to the point where you're like, I'm unwell, like I'm not taking care of myself, then that's a different story.
Exactly. Yes. 100%. I think that's knowing where you are now. I think that's a really inspirational story. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah. I would also say my last takeaway for that is that if you are, I don't want to just say this, make a blanket statement and then people do crazy things and fail. But if you are good at what you do and you're not getting anywhere, I do think taking really big risks can pay off. Like I signed up to lease out that shop because I knew I've been designing for like, at that point it had been maybe 11 years. And so I knew I was good. I knew my portfolio was good. I knew how to take photos. I knew how to work with customers. I'd worked in so many flower shops and like I'd done it so long. So it wasn't like, I'm going to take a risk and do something I know nothing about. Like that's not what I mean. But I took a financial risk by signing that lease I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent next month. But I'll have a shop. So hopefully people will start giving me money.
Sometimes the craziest people are the most successful.
Yeah. And it worked because it did give me exposure. But, I never would have found out if I hadn't taken that risk. And I think so often entrepreneurs are like, well, I have to wait until everything's perfect before I try this thing that makes me really uncomfortable. But I don't think things hardly ever work that way. I think you almost always have to just take a leap of faith and be like, here we go. Like you raising your prices.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I was literally figuring it out. The first year of me like changing the way I charged and the market I was trying to get in, all of that, I was figuring it out as I was going that whole year. But I was like, I have to start now. I can't just wait until I've learned everything there is to know about percentage pricing. I'm going to have to figure it out for myself. Mm-hmm. Also, there's no resources out there on it. So, but there will be. Wink, wink.
Isn't there now with Manda and Monthly? Or are you saying you're creating more classes on it?
I talk about it a lot on Manda and Monthly, but I am coming out with a resource soon on actually like how I full transparency, how I charge percentage, how I swapped over to it, how you can implement it for your own business and such.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't find anything out there. I could find a bunch of blogs from like 10 years ago that were like celebrity wedding planners charge 25%. And I was like, okay.
How does that help anyone? It's like, thanks for letting me know. I'm not a celebrity wedding planner.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, where do I fit into that?
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, good. If anyone else has really low times that they feel like they came out of and learned something from and succeeded in life or in business, you guys should share those with us.
Yeah, we want to hear it.
Us. Okay, and that said, we know that our website looks like shit right now, but it's still functioning.
It's okay. Why do you think it looks like shit?
It's ridiculous looking. It literally still says coming soon. So sorry, but doesn't mean we're not checking our messages. We are. So submit your stories and thoughts and all the other things.
I forget that website even exists because the submissions just get sent to my inbox. So
exactly.
I have no need to ever look at it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's our fault. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it. We're at 48 minutes, so we should wrap it.
Yeah. Let's wrap it.
All right.
We believe in you. We believe in you, everyone. Please give us 5 stars.
You know what? Actually, Candid Creative Podcast community, you are showing up for us.
Yeah, you are
giving us 5 stars. We appreciate you. We love you. Hey, also, we haven't been telling people this, but like follow, subscribe, do whatever the buttons are
Press
on
all the
Spotify.
buttons.
Press all the buttons
Check
because
marks, the pluses, the follows, just press all the buttons.
Press all the buttons because you will get, except for the 1-star button, don't press that one. You will get alerts when we come out with new ones. Johnny at midnight on Mondays gets an alert that says Candid Creative Podcast has launched a new podcast. And I was like, that's fun. I hope everyone gets that. So if you're not already and you want alerts at midnight on Monday when we drop our podcast, go follow.
Perfect. And if you don't like us, give us 5 stars. You can air your grievances on my Reddit thread.
Bye.
Bye. We love you.